Hi, everybody. Sam, I'm hoping that this is all working. If you guys can type into the chat and let me know if you can see me and hear me, that would be super helpful. I'm going to see if I can stream on Facebook as well. I don't know. It's a little exciting. Okay. Let's see if this will work. Go live. Oh, Adoni's seeing here. Okay, that's great news. As you can tell, I am not at home. I'll explain to you what's happening in just a second. Let me just make sure that this is working. So oh, good, there it is. Clean my camera a little bit. I'll explain to you what's happening in just a second. Let me just make sure that this. Okay, so yay! All right. Hi, everybody. So as you can see, I'm not at home. I am in my car. I've been driving all around town trying to find Wi-Fi, which we don't have. So I'm in my car. I'm on the hotspot on my phone, which I'm hoping will sustain this whole broadcast. If it doesn't and it gets cut off, well, then it doesn't and it gets cut off. So we'll just have to deal with that as it happens. If I can boost this up a little bit. That's a little better. All right, so we've got about 2 minutes till we start. I'm trying not to say anything too interesting until 10 o'clock because I don't want to leave out people who, aren't here yet. But it's lovely to see you all. I'm very grateful that you're here. And if you're on Facebook, you can type in to Facebook. If you're on the Zoom, you can type into the Zoom. And yeah, in just a second, I'll start the whole Megillah, right? So just about a minute till we start. So if you want to get a pad and papers in case you want to take notes, if you want to get something to drink, I support you in staying hydrated. One of the number one keys to success is stay hydrated. I once heard Tim Ferriss ask Tony Robbins how to deal with disappointment. And Tony Robbins said, hydrate, which I thought was really wise. It's true. Everything's worse when you're dehydrated. And by the time you're thirsty, it's too late, right? Rest before you get tired, drink before you get thirsty, eat before you get hungry. It's a radical strategy, but it works. All right, I've got 10 o'clock straight up, so I want to go ahead and start. Hi, everybody. It's Sam Bennett from theorganizedartistcompany.com, and welcome to this Sam Unscripted, Sam TV. My team has been calling it Church of Sam, which is funny. As you can see, I'm not at home. We're having a little bit of a situation here. Some of you may know that I live in a little tiny beach town called Carpinteria, California. It's about 90 minutes north of Los Angeles and about 20 minutes south of Santa Barbara. All before Christmas, we were dealing with California's largest ever wildfire. It was burning right on those hills over there, and it was really traumatic and intense. And then just the other day, we had a really intense rainstorm, and there were mudslides and flooding. Here in Carpinteria, we were pretty much fine. Where I live is fine. The beach has a lot of debris on it, huge trees and all kinds of stuff. But just up the road in Summerlin and Montecito and Santa Barbara, there was tremendous loss of property and life. And it's really devastating. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more. But what that means is the freeway's cut off. We can't get to Santa Barbara, and the internet is out. My landline is out. Our cable is out. It has been for several days, and it might be another week or two till it gets restored. So I'm on my hotspot. I've been driving around town. Somebody told me McDonald's had Wi-Fi, but they don't. So I'm here in my car on my hotspot. I'm hoping that the signal stays strong and we can keep talking and communicating while we're here. But let's start with our breathing and with a prayer, shall we? You ready? Oh, there's so much to pray about. So yeah, go ahead and maybe shift your body around a little bit just to let yourself know that something different is happening, something not in the normal everyday is happening. And if you want to close your eyes or open your eyes, if you want to lift your face up so that success can find you, so that love can find you, if you want to hold your face or hold your own hands, put your hand on your heart or your belly, whatever feels right to you, whatever feels honoring and self-honoring to you. And we're going to inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. We'll do that 3 times, and then I'll pray. We'll see how that comes out. I'll just do that for as long as I do that, and then we'll talk. If you guys have questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So, in this moment, you ready? Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Creator, Mother, Father, God, we come to you in this moment to exhale, to let go, to let down, to take down the walls that separate us from other people, from other people's experiences, from the world that you have created. We exhale so that we can participate more fully in this great, beautiful, breathing world. We spend so much time armored up, protecting ourselves from this person and that idea and that scene of violence and that scene of heartbreak so that we don't have to take it into ourselves, but we know that that's why we're here. We are here to participate with one another. We are here to participate in the heartbreak. We are here to participate in the joy and the blooming and the blossoming of life. Things do not go according to our timeline. Things do not go according to our will. There's so much that we can control, and we try. But there is way more to which we must surrender. So in this moment, we exhale and we surrender. And we say, thy will be done. We say, not mine. We say, the reality is the present moment. We say, the reality is God. We say, what is here to teach me? What is here to mold me? What is here to change me? How am I being asked to transform in this moment? Where am I being asked to release my big, fat, stupid ideas about how the world is supposed to go? And instead, exhale and participate in with what is actually happening. We know that we are not immune to tragedy. We know that hard things are not punishment. We know that everyone deals with hard things. We know that people survive the unsurvivable all the time. You have survived the unsurvivable. You have lived through things that you wouldn't wish on anyone. And those things made you who you are. They opened you. And so even in our grief and even in our heartache and even in the face of tragedy, we say, I am open. I trust myself to withstand this. I trust myself to be swamped, to be flooded, to be swept away, because I am part of all of it. Because God is expressing through me as me in this moment. And in the face of tragedy, we are the hands and feet of God. In the face of celebration, we are the hands and feet of God. We are here to do the work. People say, how could God let this happen? God doesn't let anything happen. Things happen. We are the ones called to be of service, to witness, to pray, to give succor and solace, to give money when we can, to give hugs, to give our good thoughts, to give our patience and our understanding. And in this moment, we recognize how much we have to give. We have an endless and endlessly renewable resource in our creativity. We have an endless and endlessly renewable resource in our love. That's what we're here for. To share our creativity, to share our love, and not just with some people, but with every person. And not just with some of the world, but with all of the world. And not just a little bit, but with all of it. So we turn on the faucet 100%, and we take the consequences. We open. We open to the pain. We open to the joy. We open to the opportunities. We open to the abundance that is this world. And with a grateful heart, we say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the breaking. Thank you for the flooding. Thank you, and amen. So, hi. I managed to get mascara all over everything. I did. Sophia says, thank you. That was beautiful. My pleasure. Thank you. You guys made it beautiful. When you are here, you give me a place to put the things I'm thinking about, the things that I've been crying about. There's it's weird to be dealing with tragedy when it's not specifically your tragedy, right? I mean, it's a little like if you've got a friend or a loved one in the hospital, like it's not actually happening to you. You're fine, but like 3/4 of your brain is with them, and you feel everything that's happening to them, and that's very much how it's been. And there's an enormous psychic weight that comes when people near you are suffering. It imprints on the air, it's part of everything that's happening. And I don't know that there's a way to escape it or that we're even supposed to escape it. I think we're here to breathe through it and do what we can do to help. But it's funny, it's such a tiny part of the country, right? I mean, Montecito is a very, very tiny town. There's maybe 10,000 people in the whole town. Montecito has a higher population of millionaires and billionaires than any other place in the world except Monte Carlo. And I've heard a little of that too. I've heard a little like, oh, well, the rich people. Which is shocking in its ism. What is that? It's not racism, it's classism, right? And if you're ever wondering like, oh, am I being classist or racist or judgmental, just substitute what you're saying with some other group name. Like, oh, the rich people. Oh, it's just women. Or, oh, it's just poor people. Oh, it's just a bunch of writers. Like, you would never say that. Like, is it a blessing that most of the houses got destroyed or have been built by people who can afford to rebuild? Yeah, that definitely helps. But it doesn't take away their heartache. It doesn't take away the destruction. It doesn't take away the loss of life. Everybody's home is their home. So, and for the rescue workers, I'm so grateful to them. So yeah, we have opportunities to watch ourselves, right? And watch our judgments. Anytime you're thinking that somebody else's life is easier for them than your life is for you, you are caught in a big fat lie, because no one's life is easier for them than your life is for you. Everybody's life is as hard for them as your life is for you. Everybody, some stories are more dramatic, some stories have more episodes, but believe me, everything is as hard for everybody else as your life is for you. And remembering that and staying in that point of compassion is, again, I think part of what we're called to do as people and as artists. Sophia says she's inspired to share my prayers now too in my own ways. Thank you for this beautiful sincerity, truth, and vulnerability. No prayer goes unanswered. Yes, that's right. Compassion, exactly. You can hear I'm still at the tail end of this bronchitis. It's taken a long time. Let's see, I'm wondering if there's lots of comments on the Facebook page. Hello, hi Allison, hi Stephanie, hi Crystal, hi Monica, hi Beth. Crystal says that was beautiful, thank you. Bobby says amen, and so it is. Oh, yes. Thank you for such a beautiful prayer, says Allison. You're welcome, thank you. Bobby says, yeah, they're still human. Yeah, it's true. Rich people need love too. Rich people have heartbreak too. And in some ways it's almost, of the rich and famous people I know, it's almost harder for them because they feel like maybe they're not entitled. Like, oh, who am I to complain? Who am I? I have so much. And no, we all get to complain and we all get to hurt. Crystal says, I think and feel it as the net you describe. We're part of the net being pulled on our interconnected tugs of being. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Trisha says, beautiful Sam. Thank you. You are such a sensitive soul. I share your experience of feeling the collective pain of our fellow beings. Life brings us all the storylines, and we all need each other to hold the space of love. Thank you for your sharing heart. Yeah, when I was working full-time as an actor, I often thought that, you go in, actors in general, in my experience, are the most lovely, generous, smart, funny, just like the best people. Like, there's a reason why, actors are great to be friends with. Like, they're just wonderful. Until they get in the waiting room of a casting director. And then something would happen to them. Like, people would shut down, they'd get competitive, they'd get really weird. And I think sometimes part of that was that, like, in the office of a casting director, much like in the office of a dentist or a doctor or a hospital, like, so many people have sat there and worried. So many people have sat there and been anxious that it, like, seeps into the wallpaper, and it's kind of contagious. Like, you can't not feel it. So I always considered going on auditions, like, part of my spiritual warrior journey was to, like, stay in my own space, stay in the space of loving, stay out of any idea of competition, any idea that we were in some kind of a race or that there was a way to win or lose, that, to stay connected to my own creative spirit and not, like, picking apart what everybody else is doing. But we're sensitive like that. We're sensitive to our environment. And and when a lot of people nearby you are in pain, you're going to feel it, especially you hypersensitives out there, you empaths. Don't expect yourself to not feel it. And, when people say, oh, toughen up, it's like, with what? How? I don't know how that's possible. And it's been weird. Like, I haven't really been able to work. I mean, as I said, the internet's out, so there's a lot of work I can't do anyway. But it's just as well because I can't really concentrate. I can't read. I've been rereading old books just because I can't really focus enough to digest anything new. And we've been a little housebound, right? Like I said, the freeway's closed. Luke can't go teach at the university. So it's been this weird little bubble of kind of rattling around the house and cooking and praying, a lot of praying, and trying to just be in a state of deep forgiveness. Like, okay, I can only get done what I can get done. And I'm just going to assume that anything that's not getting done is because it doesn't need to get done right now. I have a voice in my head that says that it needs to get done right now. and I'm trying to attend to like the most pressing things, but like I said, we're not always in charge of the timeline, right? Liz says bearing witness is a phrase that comes to mind. Yeah, bearing witness and being an enlightened witness, as much as you can to the people who are suffering, to witness them, to hold, as they say, hold space for them, right? Make a container where people can express what's happening for them, and to, when it's appropriate, bring your own experience to light. To say, I see you and I hear you. And especially for artists, right? This is what we do. Artists explain our feelings to us, right? We take feelings and we turn them into language. We turn them into visuals. We turn them into dance or performance or song, a story, a moment. So if you have the capacity to take suffering and turn it into art, I think in some ways that is the highest and best use of your time and talents. Because for other people who aren't as articulate in their feelings, you give them a way to say, yes, that's me. Yes, that's how I feel. And you give them a moment of not feeling so alone. Because we are alone, right? We're born alone, we die alone, we're in our heads alone. We seek connection, we strive, we yearn for union, for oneness, for the dissolution of the ego boundary. We yearn to surrender to the other, we yearn for community, and yet we're totally alone. But art is the moment in which we understand that while we are alone, we don't suffer alone. We are not alone in our suffering. And that's why we love it, right? And this is also why, I was just getting interviewed about this morning, this is also why perfectionism is such a myth when it comes to creative or artistic effort. Because the art that has saved your life, right? The art that, the song that came on when you got your heart broken, the book that you reread obsessively when you were sad or sick, the TV show or the movie or the dance or the movement or the healing that came upon you, those songs and stories that matter most to you, you don't love them the most because they're the most perfect, right? In fact, there's a good chance they're kind of shitty. Like some of my favorite movies and some of my favorite books are not the world's best books. I would be a little probably embarrassed to tell you what they are. And yours too, right? You don't love them because they're the best, because they're perfect. You love them because they speak to you, because they heal something inside you, because they help you raise your hand and say, yes, that's me too. I feel that way too, right? Hallmark card commercials, for crying out loud. That one with the piano teacher from, what was that, 20 years ago? That still makes me cry. It's an ad, for God's sake. So, this is what we're here to do. This is what we're here to do. So never let your concern that your work isn't good enough stand in your way. Your work doesn't have to be good enough. Your work just has to be your work. And and the more you can create something that helps people connect, that helps people understand, that gives them some insight, that gives them a way to communicate with each other. That feeling? How that character is? I feel like that. What this poem says, I feel like that. It gives us a way to speak to that which is unspeakable. It gives us names for that which is unnameable. And that's what we're here to do. That's what creative people do. That's what artists do. It's a sacred calling. And you don't need a degree. You don't need a certificate. You don't need anybody else to tell you you can do it. You don't need anybody else's love or approval. And you don't need anyone else to even understand it. You may be making something that's not going to get understood for 100 years. That happens, right? That happens. So we seek to free ourselves from the need for approval, for understanding, for perfection. And instead we surrender to the story. We surrender to the story that needs to be told. We surrender to the voice that needs to be heard inside of us. And that little idea you have, that's it. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's your engraved invitation from God. You're not going to get more encouragement than that. Okay, let's see. What are people saying here? Sophia says, these discussions are so healing. May healing and joy and deep comfort and truth enter all our spaces and places. Amen. Sonia says, many thanks, Sam. You've been so in my thoughts the last few days. Yes, up here in Toronto. And your strength and courage and attitude are beyond inspirational. Oh, thanks. So grateful and amazed that you've insisted on finding the time and a methodology to connect always, but today in particular. Yeah, thank you. I will say, of all the things, the many, many reasons why a lifetime in the theater prepares you for the world, this concept of the show must go on. Like, if I commit to doing something every Friday at 10, I will do it every Friday at 10, come hell or high water. And it does not matter if I don't feel well. It doesn't matter if I can't find Wi-Fi. It doesn't matter that I don't know what I'm going to say. It doesn't matter that I don't know if any of you are going to show up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm surrendered to it. It may be, I was well aware that it was going to be possible, that I wasn't going to be able to do this technologically. I was concerned that this, hotspot wasn't going to support the Zoom. But you don't let that stop you. You don't let that stop you. So yeah, I show up because I have to show up. Trisha says, oh God, you're right. Hospitals too, that thing of the stress in the walls. Staying present inside is hard for a sensitive. The environment writes on me and I have to remember to erase the board occasionally. Sending light from the deep freeze in Indiana, which has a slowdown. Stay in vibe now too. Yes, I know. I have family in Kentucky and they were saying, yeah, they're getting an ice storm and it was a little scary there. So yes, huddle in. In Santa Barbara and Montecito, they were talking, and here in Carp, they were talking about shelter in place, right? When the rainstorm was happening, we were getting emergency alerts all the time saying, find higher ground, for the people who were in mandatory evacuation, leave, find higher ground. And then eventually when the rain got so bad, they said, well, you can't find higher ground. There's nowhere to go. So shelter in place, which I thought was a really beautiful phrase, shelter in place. And, again, we were packed and ready to go. We had just unpacked the bags from the fire and now we had to repack and load up the cars and make sure they were gassed up and ready to go. We were prepared to evacuate if they told us to. But I think that's an interesting point of inquiry and questioning for you guys. Where is your shelter in place? Where can you find inside of yourself the shelter that you need, no matter what is happening around outside of you? How can you stay connected to your own center, to your own knowledge of what's true, to your own love, right? If we're going to say that love is all there is, then that's what we need to stay connected to and not get distracted by whatever, by the news, by other people's behavior, by things that frustrate us, by our circumstances. We acknowledge these things. I'm not saying, stick your head in the sand or pretend like things aren't happening. No, things are definitely happening and we are asked to live in the world. But there can be part of you that stays sacred, that stays inviolable, that stays sacrosanct, that stays permanent. So how do you keep your flame alive? How do you keep your awareness of your inner flame alive no matter what? And it's okay to take a break. It's okay to walk out of rooms. It's okay to cry. It's okay to turn off the news. It's okay to not look at the pictures. Don't push yourself too hard. You guys are sensitives and the thumbprints of other people show up on you. So, it's okay. And do what you got to do. Sometimes, a long shower, scrubbing yourself with a salt or sugar scrub, smudging, whatever you can do to sort of align yourself energetically with that which is highest and best for you, do that. Sonia says, please do take this time with us today to share all you want if it helps. Oh, thank you. Time for support for you from us, however limited. So grateful for the debris basin in the Santa Monica Creek. Yes, that's true. From my searches and reading yesterday, again, can only imagine up here in Toronto, blessings however they come. It's true, Carpinteria was spared a lot of the flooding because of the way the debris basin was here. Good, let's see if there's anything else on Facebook from you all. Oh, there's Star. Hi, Star. Allison says, praying for your community. Thank you. Artists take their feelings and turn them into language. How lovely. Yes, we do. Amber says, tell that brat in your head to stop giving you such a hard time. That's right. That's right. And I think to think of it as a brat in your head is a great image, because of course that's really what it is, right? When we start giving ourselves a hard time, when we start getting that perfectionist thing going, or that critical pointing fingers thing, like we're like an overtired toddler, right? We're like having a tantrum in our mind. I want this. Why isn't this happening? Right? And to go like, okay, brat. And then we nurture ourselves the way we would nurture an overtired toddler, right? Make sure that you're fed and rested and cuddled and loved, and that you have some room for artistic expression. You can get some of those feelings out and put them into form, if that's a drawing or a movement or a dance or a prayer, if it's a candle you make or a sculpey clay or however it is you like to express. Make sure you've got time every day to do that. And don't get too precious about it. Like, you don't need 3 months in Provence. You don't need an altar. You don't need hours of silence. I mean, you may for some of your work, but on a day-to-day basis, see if you can't challenge yourself to bring your creativity into every moment. Bring it into your commute. Bring it into your conversations in the grocery store. Bring it into your interactions with other people. Bring it into your emails. Bring it into your cruising around Facebook. What's a way you can show up just a little bit more authentically today? That you can share just a little more fully the truth of who you are and what you see and in the world. How can you just 1% more, 2% more? Again, we can get concerned about fitting in. We get concerned about judgment. We get concerned about what are other people going to think. But, you guys never fit in to begin with. Like, I hate to break it to you. Some of you might have done a pretty good imitation of somebody who fits in, but I don't know. I don't ever remember feeling like I belonged, particularly on the planet, even, much less than, to any class or family or school or group, even the ones I loved. I always thought, I'm not sure these are really my people, until I finally realized that's just the nature of the thing, right? Art is about perspective, right? So you have to hold your own perspective, and that means that you stand apart. You have a different perspective than everybody else does. And it doesn't make you any more special than anybody else. It doesn't make you any more alone feeling. I think everybody feels alone. I spent about 15 years working with a guy named Sim Christensen on personal branding, and helping people figure out how to talk about themselves in a way that felt truthful and real, so they could communicate the truth of who they were. And there was a whole big process to it. It's super great. If you get a chance, Sam's still doing his work. It's Sam Christensen, E-N at the end. He's in North Hollywood. He's amazing, an amazing teacher. You should just go. And he doesn't charge nearly enough for his work. You should just go and take his class. But in part of this personal branding process, people got to pick phrases that they loved or that they really felt described him. And it got to be slightly comic how many people picked the phrase, among them, but not of them. Among them, but not of them. And like, at first I was a little confused by that. And then I started to think that it was funny that everybody thought they were so special. And then it started to be very beautiful to me. But like, yes, everybody feels that way. Everybody feels a little bit like they don't belong. Everybody feels a little bit like a space alien sometimes. Um, Everybody feels a little misunderstood. And and again, I think it goes back to that aloneness thing we talked about, right? You're the only one up here. You're the only one hearing these voices in your head. You're the only one seeing the world in the way in which you see it. And that's a solitary experience. Um, and to treasure that like a jewel, don't take it as a sign that you're not made for the world or that the world doesn't need you or value you. Take it as a sign that you have something special to give and to bring, and also to look for all the ways in which you do belong and all the ways in which you are part of your family, of your community, of the world, all the ways in which you have been welcomed. It's easy for us to pick out the stories that support this idea of, oh, I'm misunderstood, or, oh, no one knows me, no one cares. And that can be one thread in the tapestry, but there's a big tapestry. And there's a lot of ways in which you are exactly like everybody else. Like, there are so many ways in which you are so completely unspectacular. And to really embrace that normalcy, like embrace the parts of you that are completely right down the middle and even subpar. like where are the parts that you are not at the, far end of the bell curve? Where are the parts of you that are just like everybody else? And again, celebrate those parts. Find that commonality. It's so easy for us to get judgmental. I was just getting interviewed this morning, and the people who were interviewing me were like, oh, and there's people on YouTube, and then what they make is crap, and it's so this, and they're millionaires. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure that's true. There's a lot of schlock that makes a lot of money. But I don't know, sometimes I kind of dig schlock. Sometimes I'm in the mood for schlock. That's okay. And to find the things that everyone connects to, there's a certain genius in that, I'll tell you, actually, I did a little exercise this summer, because I was thinking about popular. I was thinking about this concept of popular and what makes things popular, and how could I make things that were popular. And so I got a copy of People magazine because I thought, well, People magazine is popular. What's in there? And I read it very carefully. And here's what I found. Here's the discovery from my People magazine experiment. First of all the stories had the exact same arc, right? It didn't matter what the story was about, if it was about a celebrity or a regular person or an animal rescue, whatever it was. The story went, okay, here's this person or this situation, this thing is happening, and we think it's going to be okay. Right? Here's the soap opera star, she's struggling with infertility, but we think it's going to be okay. Here's this vet who had this horrible experience, they went through this thing, but we think it's going to be okay. And I was like, wow, okay, that's a good story. I think we like that story. We want to hear that story over and over again. We struggle, we all have circumstances, but we think it's going to be okay. We think we can persevere. We think we're going to be able to pull through this. Okay, so that was one thing, was just that's the exact same story in every article. I also noticed that there were really only 3 kinds of ads in People magazine, or at least in the one that I bought. There were ads for snack foods, Go-Gurts and things. There was ads for over-the-counter beauty products, like Oil of Olay, that kind of thing. And there were ads for TV shows. And then there's like one car ad. That was it. And I thought, well, yeah, I think that's where a lot of people, including me, live a lot of the time. Like, are there snacks? Can I really spend $9 on a lotion? And what's on TV? Like, yeah, that speaks to a lot of people. I don't care who you are, how rich you are, or what your concerns are. Like, are there snacks? Am I sufficiently moisturized? What's on TV? I don't really have a point to the story, except that, like, dwelling in the normalcy of that, dwelling in the getting curious about, like, well, what do I have to say that fits into the normal and the everyday? You know, where am I completely ordinary? Where are you completely ordinary? It's kind of fun. Let's see. Catherine says, life is so kind. I love that. Life is so kind. As I was about to walk out the door, I sat down at my computer at 9:58 and was invited by you to be in connection. Open-hearted. The tears haven't stopped flowing. I lost my sweet buddy of 14 years, my dog, oh no, a few days ago, and this was my moment to grieve. Thank you. Your heart is serving so beautiful, so grateful to you. Oh, Catherine, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. That makes me so sad. Losing an animal, I don't know what's more heartbreaking. I mean, I guess there aren't really degrees of heartbreak, right? Heartbreak is heartbreak, but it's just the worst. It's the thing about accepting an animal into your life is you're going to get your heart broken. I mean, the idea is you're going to outlive them, right? I mean, there's very few animals that outlive us. So you're sort of opening yourself up to that heartbreak, and it's so challenging to live through it. And in some ways, I feel like the highest and best use of Facebook, like one of the things I love about Facebook is that it gives us a place to grieve with one another around the loss of our animals. Because before, there was no way, what are you going to do? You're going to go into work, you're devastated, and people say, how are you? And you're like, well, my cat died, my dog died. Like, there just wasn't really a way to talk about it. But now you can put up something on Facebook, you can put up the pictures, you can say, my sweetheart crossed the rainbow bridge, or however you want to put it, and everybody piles on, right? Everybody says, oh my gosh, me too. Oh, I'm so sorry. What a sweet face. You were such a good kitty mommy. You're such a good daddy mommy, puppy mommy, whatever. And it gives us a place to be heartbroken about that. It's the purest love we know, right? It's the nobody sees us more clearly than our animal friends, and they don't need us ever to be any different than we are. I think that's part of what we love so much about being with them is they're just happy we're here. My cat does not need me to be any smarter or any richer or any more successful or any more insightful than I am. My cat likes that I'm warm, that I'm sort of a big heating pad. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm so sorry. And we're with you. We're with you. That's a heartbreak for sure. And Deborah says, so sorry for your lost cat. Saying goodbye to my Buffy 2 years ago was one of the most difficult things I've experienced. I still miss her every day. I wonder if people passing by think Sam is talking to herself in her car. Oh, I'm sure they do. That's okay. It's a small town. People know me. It's fine. Sonia says it's biblical. I seem to remember in the world, but not of the world. Yeah, I think that's it. It's also, it's a line from a poem too. I can't remember what it is. I'll look it up maybe. And she says, thanks again for repeatedly reminding us of the amazing commonality amongst us all. Some of us hardcore individualist types really need to hear that. Yeah, it's true. We're special, but we're not that special. Let's see. Stephanie says, I still grieve my dog that died 30 years ago. Yeah, that's right. Amber says, it's very tough to lose a beloved animal and difficult to explain to people who don't understand. I know. So we seek to just be present. Just be present for the grief. Be present for the heartbreak. Like I said, be open. Be open to the floods. Be open to the brokenness. and to see what we can make of it. Because again, the art that you make, the story that you tell, the poem you write, or the painting you make about your heartbreak and your loss and your bereavement, it helps me. It helps me with my heartbreak and my loss and my bereavement. Oh, Jody says hi. She's just joining in. So sweet to see you, all mushy and human. I'm in the Bay Area and watching from afar, coming together as real people, sharing hardships and loss and fears. That's what's real. Amen, Jody. Amen. Sonia also says, hugs and support, Catherine. Be gentle and patient with yourself. Grief is not linear. It sure isn't. It really isn't. And there isn't a right way to do it. There isn't a timeline. There isn't. It's so ridiculous. You're like, oh, I should be over it by now. What? You should be over it by now? Where did that come from? Whose big stupid idea is that? We don't get over things. We live through things. We make them part of us. We allow ourselves to be made more fragile, to be made more faith-filled, to be made more resilient. We were talking last week about grief, and while there are moments of grief that are monolithic, there's moments of grief where you just get swamped, and there's just nothing exists except the grief. You can't even understand how other people are walking around breathing because you're so consumed by the grief. But those moments are pretty fleeting, I think. Like, if you can really just hang out in there, don't fight it, just hang out and let it be monolithic for a second, it doesn't take very long before something else happens. Before you remember something funny, or you notice the sunlight on the leaves, or some crazy lady in a car talking to herself, or something happens, and there's a little break in the moment, and you can see an opportunity. You can see a way through. You can see some way to be part of the world again, and to give yourselves, that rest when you need rest, and those tears when you need tears, but also the strength to keep going when you need to keep going. Unfortunately, locking grief away doesn't make it go away. I think a lot of us try that strategy of like, oh, I'm just not going to think about it. And for those of you who also grew up in the, not exactly members of the Happy Childhood Club, one of the weird benefits of growing up in a traumatic environment is a really developed skill at compartmentalizing, right? I learned to do that as a child. I bet a lot of you did too. Like, I'm just going to not think about what's going on at home while I'm at school. I'm just going to not think about this horrible thing that's happened, or this horrible situation that I'm in, or this abuse or degradation that I'm suffering in this one part of my life. And I'm just going to lock that away and not pay any attention to that. And it's a great survival mechanism. It's amazing how the brain can do that. And our brain does it automatically for us as a survival mechanism. You've probably had this experience where something really traumatic and horrible is happening to you, but like somehow all you can focus on is some weird little side thing. I was going to say some of you may know, but probably almost all of you don't know. When I was 20, I broke my back in a big car wreck. And I'll tell you all the gory details sometimes, but it was bad. I totally destroyed my 12th thoracic vertebrae. I fractured my skull on both sides. I was in the hospital for a long time. I had to learn to walk again. There were a lot of 9-hour surgeries. It was a very big deal. But as I was in neuro ICU, like as they were putting me on the trauma helicopter and flying me to the hospital, and right after the accident, apparently all I kept doing was waking up and asking where my sister was. She was there too, but she was fine. And then I had broken a nail. And I was really concerned about the fact that I had broken a nail, that I'd ruined my manicure. Because like my brain could not process, oh, you've broken your back, right? You just can't absorb that information. So the brain protects you against that information and says, here, focus on this. Focus on this thing you can handle. So, this is how we compartmentalize. And it's a great, it's a useful strategy, but it only works for so long. So, do it when you have to do it. Go to work when you have to go to work. Show up for the people in your life in the way you have to show up for them. But don't imagine that your ability to sort of show up and function means that you're not grieving, or that those grieving feelings are going to go away, right? You can lock them in a vault, but they just get stronger. So you've got to give yourself some way to get them out. This is the other reason why I encourage you to make art about what's happening for you, is because when you put your feelings into form, they get expressed. Feelings just want to be felt. And when it hits the air, it can grow and change. It can change you. It can change the rest of us. Yeah. Deb says, I wrote a poem for my Buffy and we'll send it to you. Feel free to share it. Oh, I'd love that. And Deb, put it up on the Facebook page. You're in 365 Club, I think, right? For those of you who aren't in 365 Club, you should consider joining. It's really inexpensive and it's a great community and a great place to share when things aren't going so great or when things are going really great. Because that's the other thing, is we can't always celebrate with everybody, right? Sometimes you have amazing, wonderful things happen and other people don't really want to hear it. So, yeah. Jody says, lately I've had conversations with people at the Air Force and big finance. It's not so much that we teach leadership and resilience, it's that we help people study it, identify it, build on what is. These are those moments. Yeah, that's exactly right, Jody. I think you're exactly right. I think we don't really learn. Yeah, we don't really teach leadership, but we recognize the moments in which we are able to lead ourselves, in which we are able to choose the higher ground, to make a better decision, to resist our lower impulses, the impulse to gossip, the impulse to point fingers, the impulse to judge, the impulse to be critical, the impulse to be self-aggrandizing and, self-praising. We resist those impulses. We sacrifice those impulses on the altar of doing that which is better. That which is better for our mind, for our spirit, for the community, for each other. That's nice. Because, you can't teach what to do when you break your back or when your house washes away. That's exactly right. There's no prep for that. There's no prep for that. So, good. Let's see what's happening on Facebook. Anything? Oh, Roxana's here. Hi, Roxana's in Peru, everybody. Yeah, Amber says, grief is what it is and will hit you at the oddest moments sometimes. Amen. Yeah, and you need to allow yourself those tender moments. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Good. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour, and I don't want to keep you guys any longer than we need to be here. I want to thank you so much for being here, for your insights. Deborah says the key to life may be to shelter in place wherever you go. Yeah, I think it might be. I think it might be shelter in place. Find the place inside of you that is a shelter. Find the place that is inside of you that can be a shelter for someone else. So this is our inquiry, right? This is our moment to say, how can I show up more fully, more richly, more completely for a world that needs me, for a world that needs my hug, for a world that needs my vulnerability, for a world that needs my leadership, that needs my insight, that needs my inspiration, that needs my poems about my animal friends, that needs, whatever resources I have to share. So let's do, shall I pray us out? Shall we do that? Let's do, let's do another breath and I'll see what there is to pray on. You ready? Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Creator, God, that which is us, expressing as us. We appear to be individuals, but we are all the same. We appear to be functioning in time, but we are out of time. We are caught up in the waves of love. We are caught up in the current of energy that binds us all together. That which sustains and supports all of us. Like a heart beating our blood through our body without our even asking. We are sustained, we are kept alive. We have energy to share. We have love to share. We have ideas to share. We will not shut ourselves down. We will not quiet our voice. We will not pretend that the pain isn't there. We will not pretend that we have not suffered. We will not pretend that we do not see the suffering of others. But we also will not pretend that suffering is all there is. We bloom. We blossom. The blossom falls away. We are reborn. We bloom. We blossom. The blossom falls away. This is the world. It's not the only world, but it's this world. And so we participate in it as fully as we can. We show up for the little seeds inside of us that don't look like anything. We show up for the rich dirt and the sunshine. We show up for the little sprouts of ideas, for the little sprouts of beginnings. We show up for the great blossoming. We show up for the harvest. We show up for the sharing. We show up for the reaping. And we show up for the empty times. For the times when it looks like nothing is happening. The times when the fields lay fallow. The times when we are so prostrate with grief we can't get off the floor. We show up because we know that when we show up 100%, when we participate fully, that moment is transformed and we can get off the floor. Maybe not in our time. Maybe not in the time we'd like to. Maybe not in the way we'd like to. Maybe not with as much grace as we would like to. But we see the opportunity to breathe through the moment into whatever's on the other side. The grief is not unending. The tragedy is not unending. The joy is not unending. We breathe through each moment, celebrating each moment, because we're here for it. We're here for it. We will not always be here for it, but we're here for it now. We're here to brush our teeth, to return a phone call, to make good food, to notice the sun on the leaf, to notice the other people in our world and see that which is beautiful and unique and one of a kind about them, and that which is the same as all of us. We celebrate that. We celebrate all that is unique and special in ourselves and in everyone around us, and we celebrate all the ways in which we are exactly the same. So plain, so simple, so ordinary. We thank you. We thank you for this ordinary breath. We thank you for this ordinary grief. We thank you for this ordinary triumph. Help us to love more fully, to be more gentle. Thank you. Thank you. All we know how to say is thank you. And let's inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you all. Thank you for doing this with me. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.